I've got here a little dibber that I've made out of a piece of dowel wood, and it's about a 1/2 inch dowel wood, and then I've taken a zip tie and put it around the dowel. I've sharpened the end of the dowel with a whittling knife, and I've put this piece of zip tie in here so that I can regulate the depth. So if I want something deeper, just slide it down. If I want a more shallow depth to grow, I'll move it up. And then on here, the leftover zip tie that's sticking out here, that can actually function as a spacer. So I'll stick it in the ground, and from the center of the dowel here to the end of this piece of zip tie is about 1 inch. And so I can then use that, put that in the next hole, and space my holes. So that is how I made a dibber out of wood dowel. I think it's a little more useful when you got wider spacing, but I'm going to demonstrate how I use it on peas today. And I have enjoyed having it just really even depth, especially. Spacing is usually not a big problem for me. I can eyeball it pretty well. But for the depth, you can't beat this thing. I'm going to water the ground first though, because I find that when I use the dibber to make the hole, if I haven't watered, the soil doesn't adhere to itself enough, and so it tends to fall back into my hole, which is no good. I need to water it anyway, so I water it in advance so that my holes don't fall apart as I'm making them. So you can see I'm placing the end of the zip tie over the previous hole and then going straight down, give it a little twist so it comes out clean, and then we're on to the next hole. I continued on down the row all the way down, and sometimes a little bit of mud would get stuck to it, so I knock it off of there or brush it off in the grass. And there you have the row with all of my holes ready to go. So now that I have those holes, I can just put a seed in each one, and I'm monitoring as I go. Like that one didn't go down quite far enough, but I can easily just shove it down now with my finger. If I see any perennial weeds or weeds of any kind as I'm going, I'll just take care of those as I'm going, but it's pretty quick. I'm going to take care of my burying of the seeds, so I like to just take a bit of soil and I'll poke it in that hole. I'll leave it a little bit loose on the top, but want to make sure that there's not space between the seed and the earth. You don't want any air spaces in there. You want good contact with the soil, which will help to keep the seed moist and help it germinate. You can do this with a hoe also, but I find the very best is if I can use my hands. If you've got a bad back or something, just use a hoe. Okay, and we'll move on to the next holes. Okay, I'll bury this part. And we'll go on down the row. As whenever you sow seeds, you want to finish it off with some water. That'll help that contact again and keep those seeds moist until they sprout.